Good evening. Members of the public are encouraged to participate in meetings by accessing the webcast at www.cityofclovis.com/agendas, or 2, providing written comments at the same website, 3, participating by phone, or 4, coming to the City Council meeting in person. I'll call this meeting to order. The flag salute will be led by Councilmember Lamonica.
Join me in pledge of allegiance to our flag. Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Ashbeck? Here. Councilmember Bessinger?
Here.
Councilmember Moniutoa?
Here.
Councilmember Whalen?
Here.
And Mayor Flores.
And I'm here. First order of business is presentation of proclamation honoring the life and legacy of Daryl Lamonica. And who have I asked? Someone. Do you mind reading? Sure.
This is a City of Clovis proclamation honoring the life and legacy of Daryl Lamonica. Whereas Daryl Lamonica was born in Fresno on July 17, 1941, he attended Clovis High School, where he lettered in 4 sports and was an all-state quarterback. And whereas after high school, he turned down a professional baseball contract with the Chicago Cubs. Lamonica played college ball at the University of Notre Dame and was the team's starting quarterback for 3 seasons. And whereas Lamonica was drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the 24th round of the 1963 AFL Draft, on March 14, 1967, Lamonica was traded to the Oakland Raiders. And whereas in his first year with the Raiders, he threw for 30 touchdowns and ran for 4 more. In 1969, he threw for 34 touchdowns and more than 3,000 yards. On October 19, 1969, against the Buffalo Bills, Lamonica set a new record with 6 touchdown passes in the first half, a record that stood for 45 years. And it was in Oakland that Lamonica passing acumen earned him the nickname the Mad Bomber for his ability to throw very long passes. Lamonica led the Raiders to 4 consecutive division titles between 1967 and 1970, along with a Super Bowl appearance in Super Bowl II. He played with Oakland until his final year in 1974, and whereas after leaving football, Lamonica owned a trucking business and pursued fishing and hunting. He was a host for the Fox Sports Net fishing program Outdoor with the Pros. In 1974, Clovis High School named its football stadium after him. And whereas Daryl is survived by his wife, Mary Ditzel Lamonica, 2 sons, Brandon and Brian, a sister, Judy Nash, 5 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Clovis does honor the life and legacy of Daryl Lamonica, and it is witnessed and signed by our mayor.
Who's here to?
I believe we have family here.
Thank you.
Can I say a few words?
Sure.
So
Thank you very much for honoring us with your presence. I had the opportunity to go to the memorial service and really enjoyed hearing more about Daryl beyond just the football. And the conversation about everything was about angles, whether it was fishing or whether it was passing the ball. And the breadth of his life was impactful, you know, beyond just what everybody else, you know, gets to hear as a result of his being a player. My mom was the head cheerleader at Clovis High when Daryl Lamonica was the quarterback. And I shared with her the passing of Daryl, and, you know, this was before Daryl met you. I think you met him on a plane, is that right? No. Okay. Oh, that isn't right? Okay. Okay. All right. I thought you were a flight attendant. Okay, all right. So. Yeah. So, but anyway, when I shared it with my mom that he had passed, he said, "Oh, my sweeties are passing away." And so it's just, you know, with the passing of Carol Cobb, I think I had the opportunity to first meet you. Yeah, and so anyway, it's just he's a wonderful legacy for the city of Clovis, and he is honored here tonight, but also honored as a legacy forever in the city of Clovis, not just because of Lamonica Stadium, but all of the good work that he's done, you know, broadly with bringing up a great family as well. So anyway, I just wanted to say those words.
And on behalf of my wife is Raider Nation. I can't do anything if it's not for the Raiders because of her. And she was very hurt when to hear that the namesake for our Clovis High stadium had passed. He leaves a great legacy. Dr. Buchanan would speak about mind, body, and spirit, and he personified that he was mind, body, and spirit. And he leaves a great legacy here in Clovis. He was born in Fresno, but Clovis School District is a pretty big enterprise. And we in Clovis had the great fortune of having him at my alma mater, or at least I claim it, Clovis High. So thank you for sharing him with all of us throughout all those years.
And I'll just add it 2 cents. I'm a Charger fan, so I don't even know where that puts me. But I want to thank your family because we all acted like Daryl belonged to all of us, but he really belonged to you. So you shared him with our community for all these years, and his legacy will remain. And we claim him as our own, and we all speak whether we met him once or 100 times. So he did make Clovis a better place to live, and we are grateful. And we will miss him, and I know you will miss him. But he lives on right here. So thank you for sharing him. Huh? I know he did. Good. Well, and so, all right. So we're glad you're here, and you were always will always be part of our community. So thank you for sharing him with all of us over all the years. Yeah, thank you so much.
Our next presentation is a proclamation celebrating State Farm's 100-year anniversary. And that's yours?
Pay attention.
We'll be read by.
Pay attention. Is there someone from State Farm here to celebrate with us? Well, get on up to this dais up here.
State Farm is there.
No? We're going to sing you the State Farm song. All of you, some of you, the whole chambers.
Which one is Jake?
Yeah, where's Jake?
So, thank you for being here. Thanks for letting me call you out. Yes, and thanks for, you could have come too. This is a proclamation celebrating State Farm's 100th anniversary. Whereas State Farm is celebrating its 100th anniversary in 2022, and whereas the City of Clovis recognizes the positive impact the company and its agents have on our community as they've been taking care of customers in California since 1928. Clovis was 16 years old when State Farm started their work here. And whereas State Farm provides protection for 25,295 policies in 7,595 households throughout 7 active business locations in our city, and whereas State Farm was founded in the United States on the 7th of June in the year 1922 by G.J. Mr. M., a farmer in Myrna, Illinois, Mesherly, I'm not sure, sorry. Now, but you did a better job. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Clovis City Council does hereby declare June 7th, 2022 as State Farm Day in the city of Clovis, and it's signed by our mayor. So, thank you so much, yeah. Of course. Do you know how to pronounce his name? How? McCurl? Mahurl. So the C is silent. Mahurl. Oh. I'll never forget it. I'm sorry. I did. I knew that. I wanted to match your shirt. You're welcome. And your logo. You got the white. That's good. Thank you for what you're doing, Clovis.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for what you're doing, Clovis. Yeah, of course. I can't smile any longer.
You appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do, appreciate it.
We've been around for 100 years.
But yeah, if you add up a few of them. Thank you so much.
The next proclamation is National Public Works Week, and that'll be presented by Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you. So, the city of Clovis is proclaiming May 15th through the 21st is May 15th through the 21st, 2022 as National Public Works Week. Whereas public works services in our community are a vital and integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the American Public Works Association has chosen Ready and Resilient as the theme for this year's National Public Works Week to highlight the quality of life public works provides to communities. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs, and whereas the health, safety, and quality of life of this community greatly depends on public works facilities and services, and whereas the city is proud of its public infrastructure and the men and women who are dedicated to its design, construction, operation, maintenance, preservation, and improvement. And whereas the city seeks to raise public's awareness of public works issues, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Clovis does hereby declare May 15th through the 21st of 2022 as National Public Works Week. In witness, therefore, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the city of Clovis to be affixed the 16th day of May 2022, and it is signed by our mayor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. I'd like to introduce Steve Mejia. He's president of CPWA, Clovis Public Works Employees Association, and he's up here giving me support to go through this. On behalf of the American Public Works Association, our Public Utilities Department, our Planning and Development Services Department, our General Services Department, specifically Transit, Amy, I'd like to thank you guys. I'd like to thank you for proclaiming this week as National Public Works Work Week. It's a really cool thing. It really is nice to recognize what we do for the city and for the constituents. And I think, Carrie, we have a little video that we'd like to play for you.
Favorite part about the job?
Mostly what I like is actually keeping the city operating and actually talking with residents.
Probably the people I work with, get out in the communities, get everything, how it's involved, being around nature, stuff like that. It's kind of like nothing outside and off consulting.
My favorite part of working this job is being a part of an organization that cares about the important.
Every day something different, whether you paving one day, doing concrete, the next day, doing removal for different departments and implementing repairs. And most fun, I guess. Most interesting operation every day, something different. My favorite part about the job though, has got to be the public contact. I love being a public servant. I love helping people spread the knowledge that I've gained and informing members of the public all of the knowledge that I have to hopefully help their experience living in COVID.
Everything. Work with fire trucks, PD vehicles, garbage trucks, sweepers. It's fun. It's a big kid job. I get it. Big for a big boy.
They come out and they ask, and they're appreciative of the work that we do. And it's been kind of nice explaining to them, and they now have a better appreciation of what we're doing.
You know that saying, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life? That's pretty much it.
Yeah, we work with some of the best people out there, and the attitude and what they bring to our team, you can see it there. There's 170 more out in public utilities. There's 60 or 70 out in PDS and general services. There's another 100, or there's just so many folks that are providing the unsung services to keep the city running, and they just get their job done. So APWA was established in 1960, and I keep saying this, it has over 30,000 members. It has over 31,000, 32,000 members. It keeps growing. This is the 62nd annual National Public Works Week sponsored by APWA. This year's theme is Ready and Resilient. And we have our new poster out there. We will have the posters in the yard and all about as much as we can get that message out. These kind of represent all of the hardworking public works staff that live to provide the services to keep our city of Clovis running. They're professionals, and they're the backbone for the utilities, transportation, parks, solid waste, planning, building, and engineering in the city. I've already introduced Steve, so hopefully you can say something in a bit here. In celebration of National Public Works Week, we would like to invite the council to join us this Wednesday at noon, if you'd like to, at the Corporation Yard. We are going to try to have a semi-normal event this year. I say that, I know there's been a little bit of uptick in the COVID cases, but we're really going to try to get back to, you know, what we do best, and that's enjoy each other's company and have a great barbecue. Again, that's at the Corporation Yard at noon on Wednesday. Also like to point out that Friday's Farmers Market, if you're out towards where BSK is and Blast and Brew, we're going to have a really big presence out there this year with a bunch of our equipment and machinery, and for that Farmers Market night, just showing off what we do. I'm sure that we'll have a really good gathering. The kids love touching and playing and getting into the equipment. And again, we're going to try to let everything, you know, back to normal, and hopefully we're moving out of this COVID period where we can just really embrace the public and embrace each other and enjoy each other and what we do. So thank you for recognizing the public works role it has on our community. Steve.
Good evening, Council. Just a quick thank you. The employees of the Public Utilities Department really thank you for recognizing us this week and recognizing the work that we do. The high standard of service that we provide to our residents and businesses is maintained with your support. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You know, I'm glad we recognize you because, frankly, you're hardly ever pointed out. And the reason you're hardly ever pointed out is because everything runs so smoothly in the city of Clovis. If there were issues, you know, it would be, oh, where's the public works people? What are they doing? How come they're not, you know, taking care of the issue? But because we have so few issues in the city of Clovis, it's nice that we, you know, set aside this week to kind of point you out and say, hey, these are the great people that are making sure that your city of Clovis runs smoothly. So, and I always look forward to that barbecue. I'm really gonna try to make it over there. It's always very tasty.
I can't come, but I'll take a to-go box. No, I'm just kidding. Can I just chime in?
Sure.
Thank you, and I think, each year we reflect, sometimes we get credit for, gee, what a great city, but the reality is, we do like this much, and you all do the rest, and you, Public Works does the lion's share of that, so, thank you for that. And I also want to send my regards to Ricky in the video. Ricky is a second-generation public utilities employee, as I understand it.
That's junior.
And the reason I know that is I was getting yogurt the other day, and he was there with his family, and he was so cute, he goes, "Are you Lynn?" And I said, "Well, it depends if you like her or not." Anyway, so we had a nice conversation, and he talked about how grateful he was to work for the city. It was cute. It was
His father is Ricky Amperan Jr.
Father's a junior?
Yeah.
What?
You don't,
I don't know. But anyway, so you not only have, you have generations of employees.
Yes.
So anyway, it was, luckily he was like, am I Lynn? I don't know, it depends. So, but anyway, so it was fun to chat with him there too. So thank you for what you do to all of you.
He's an awesome boy.
Sure.
I've worked for 5 other cities as a chief of police, and I've seen what the culture we have here is so much different than some I've experienced. I've had people tell me, "I'm sorry, that's another union's job. I can't do that." We don't see that here. When I was a police officer, I was in my patrol car, and there was a large piece of debris in the roadway. And when I got to the corner and whipped to you, a Parks employee had already stopped and was pulling it out of the road. He didn't call anybody from streets. He didn't call the street sweeper. He got out and he did it himself. And that's one of the primary reasons why we succeed, is because employees know what they're supposed to do and they just do it. And thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to channel Harry Armstrong. Harry Armstrong always bragged about Clovis. And what he would say about Clovis was the cleanest, the safest community. And he emphasized on the clean, and that's your part. And many times, like it was said before, we don't really say that out loud too long, but we're the cleanest city too because of the work you do. So just channeling what Harry would always say, that we live in the cleanest, safest community, and you're that part. You're the clean part. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Did we get that really cool?
Yeah. Looks like it should be like a comic book or a children's cartoon show or something. It's cool. Are you guys gonna dress like that on Wednesday? Feel free. Thank you so much.
Moving on, public comments. This is an opportunity for the members of the public to address the City Council on any matter within the City Council's jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, or 10 minutes per topic. Anyone wishing to be placed on the agenda for a specific topic should contact the City Manager's office and submit correspondence at least 10 days before the desired date of appearance. Any member here in the audience would like to make a public comment? Anyone on the web?
No.
Okay. Yeah, yes, we did get some correspondence.
I think specifically he was asking how he could move this item forward as well. So I'm taking this to mean he's requesting maybe to agendize this item, but I don't know if that's how you guys took it. Maybe it's just a matter of meeting with.
So staff was recommending that we assign a staff member to contact him and move forward and answer his questions.
Okay.
Specifically, he's asking for street sweeping after community cleanup on a private road, which we currently do not.
Okay, thank you. Ordinances and resolutions. With respect to the approval of resolutions and ordinances, the reading of the title shall be deemed a motion to waive a reading of the complete resolution or ordinance, and unless there is a request by a council member that the resolution or ordinance be read in full, further reading of the resolution or ordinance shall be deemed waived by unanimous consent of the council. Consent calendar. Items considered routine in nature are to be placed upon the consent calendar. They will all be considered and voted upon in one vote as one item unless the council member requests individual consideration. The council member's vote in favor of the consent calendar is considered and recorded as a separate affirmative vote in favor of each action listed. Motions in favor of adoption of the consent calendar are deemed to include a motion to waive the reading of any ordinance or resolution on the consent calendar. For adoption of ordinances, only those that have received a unanimous vote upon introduction are considered consent items. Does any member of the council want to pull any item on the consent calendar, items 4 through 10? Nope, seeing none. I'll ask the public. Anyone in the public wishing to pull any item on the consent calendar? I see none here. How about the web?
None.
Okay, so we'll bring back to the council.
I'll move for approval of consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So I hear 5 votes to 0. Public hearing. A public hearing is an open consideration. Hold on, I got instruction, make sure I'm not.
This is where we wanted to add the item to the agenda.
Okay. Public hearing is an open consideration within a regular or special meeting of the City Council for which special notice has been given and may be required. When a public hearing is continued, noticing of the adjourned item is required by Government Code 54,955.1. Staff is requesting that we add in item 10A, it's consider approval of a resolution SPR 2001-018A2, a request to approve a site plan review for the construction of new, plus or minus 2,500 square foot visitor center from the Botanical Garden location at 945 North Clovis Avenue, Clovis Botanical Garden, and Clemens, applicant, City of Clovis, owner, the White Crow representative. So this is a new item on the agenda, so I'll first would consider from the council their consideration for adding this item on the council.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, I was just going to do a short staff report, and then I could go into the action items, if that's all right.
Did we want to put it on the agenda first?
Don't we have to put it on the agenda first?
I think it requires a 4/5 vote.
It does.
Yeah.
So shouldn't that be a motion first, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to move that we put on as the first item under the public hearings, this item, which is consider the approval of a resolution that's a site plan review 2001-018A2, which is the item that you've just read into the record.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Any public comment on this item? None on the web?
No.
So
I have a question.
Sure.
Probably for the city attorney. I live across the street from this. This is a public thing, so I don't have to recuse myself, right?
That's correct, and then I think we'll get into the action tonight. It's just a requested continuance because.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we add item 10A to the agenda, and,
I can do a short staff report on it. So, thank you for adding this to the agenda. This item was publicly noticed for tonight's meeting, and we erroneously did not include it. You have a note in front of you explaining exactly what happened. Staff is recommending the City Council move to add the item, which you did, open it up for public comment, and then continue it to a date uncertain. We noticed it, didn't include it on the agenda by mistake, so we're adding it, and just in case there's anybody here or online to comment on it.
any comments from the council, questions for staff? Nope. We'll open it to the public. Anyone here to hear this item that didn't make it to our calendar, but to our agenda, but was noticed? anyone here? Anyone on the web?
No.
And so the recommendation is that we can,
I'll make a motion to continue this to a date uncertain.
I'll second.
we have a motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So it's 5-0 for the continuance of item 10A.
Thank you.
Next item is 11, consider approval of resolution GPA 2002-002, a request to amend the general plan to redesignate approximately 2.51 acres from the industrial classification to the office classification for property located on the west side of North Clovis Avenue, immediately north of Freeway 168, California. Clovis is the applicant. Are you close enough there too? No? I don't think so. Okay. And staff member will be our city planner, David Mershon.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you noted, this request is a general plan amendment from industrial to office. You may recall that this project was initiated by your council a little earlier in April of this year, and it's intended to correct a mapping error made, it looks like, during the 2014 general plan update process. The site in question is about 2.5 acres. It's located on the west side of Clovis Avenue, just north of where Freeway 168 crosses underneath it. The current general plan designation for this site is industrial. That's the gray area that's shown on the map, including the project site and the area generally to the west. The current zone district for this site is, shows there as office, but I'm sorry, that's the wrong graphic. It's commercial professional. But when we look at the consistency between the general plan and the zoning district, we note that with an industrial general plan designation and a commercial professional zone district, that those two uses, those two designations are not consistent with one another. And this inconsistency came to light as the staff was working with the underlying property owner on what the submittal requirements would be for a potential commercial project on this site a couple of months back. Because any inconsistency like this would need to be remedied before a project could proceed, we went back to look and see if we could find where the inconsistency first began. As we researched the project site, we found there were a couple of entitlements approved back in 1992 and 93 respectively. A general plan amendment and rezoning were approved, which established commercial and office designations on the project site. Those approvals back in the early 90s were intended to prepare this general area for the pending construction of Freeway 168. So essentially what happened back in the early 90s was this area had been designated for residential use, and when the freeway was coming in, the idea was that we wouldn't want necessarily residential property to abut directly to the freeway, and so we came in and allowed the site to be designated for office development. The graphics that is shown here on the right of the screen, it's a little bit tough to read there, but it shows a proposed future office building that was located as part of the overall site. That was conceptual at the time, and that building was never constructed, and the site has remained vacant since the early 90s. So you fast forward a handful of years to the 2014 general plan update, and that was a comprehensive update, and as part of that process, the city adopted a comprehensive land use map or diagram that included obviously all of the city limits as well as the planning area surrounding the city. In conjunction with that, it looks like the area, this is kind of a blow up of the project site, again surrounded in purple. It looks like the land use designation, which again is industrial, from the adjacent property, which was a planned industrial area and is now the Dry Creek Business Park, was probably just extended onto the project site in error. It was a vacant site, it was adjacent to planned industrial. For all accounts, it probably looked like it was meant to be industrial, and using kind of the general broad strokes of the paintbrush as we used to create the general plan land use map, looks like we just spread the industrial a little further outside the lines than we intended. And that the earlier specific actions to put that those commercial and office designations in place, we just didn't catch that. When we first found that this had occurred as part of the 2014 general plan update, we weren't immediately sure whether it was intended or if it was just an oversight. So we went back and got a hold of Dwight Kroll, asked Dwight specifically about this site. Without any hesitation, he immediately said, yeah, it was just an oversight. That site was never meant to be industrial. It's always envisioned to be a commercial site, and preferably a multi-story commercial building that would rise above the elevated freeway section that lies adjacent to it. So with the oversight sort of confirmed, if you will, we took a closer look at what land use compatibility looks like today. So the surrounding uses to this site include one existing single-family home, the multifamily project that's located immediately to the north, a handful of vacant industrial properties, and then obviously Clovis Avenue and Freeway 168. So the residential properties are shown there in kind of brownish orange with the R's on them, and the industrial property is designated or shown in purple with the I designation. As staff looked at this, we've determined that the office designation would serve as a buffer between the residential properties and the nearby freeway and industrial properties. And with that in mind, staff is prepared to support a consistency finding between the proposed project and the existing general plan goals and policies, specifically those policies that support avoiding conflicts such as noise through incompatible land use patterns. Planning Commission considered this project at its April 28th meeting. There was no public testimony presented during that meeting. There were no outstanding issues deliberated by the Commission. And the Commission ultimately voted 3-0 to recommend approval. During that meeting, Commissioner Hinkle and Commissioner Bedstead were both absent. Therefore, staff and the Planning Commission recommend that the Council adopt a resolution approving the general plan amendment as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for staff? Bob?
It seems odd that, I mean, I think it's fine, obviously, to have that designation change for that particular site outlined in the red. But just south of there, we're going to keep that industrial. I don't know if that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we looked at the possibility of extending the commercial zoning to include that site. At this point, the property owner is a different property owner there, okay. And the owner of the site in question has attempted to work with that owner to sort of be collaborative about a potential project, and there's not been a lot of coordination there so far. Okay. Right. So we didn't, at this point, want to pull that property in until the owner was ready to identify their preferred use.
If that property owner to the south should, at some point, wish to have it redesignated to kind of that office classification, then that, would that be city generated, or do you think that would have to come out of the property owner, that south property owner?
Yeah, I think at this point, the same logic, or at least similar logic, would be applied. It's part of that initial area that was probably over mapped or mapped incorrectly.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, my question is with regard to the home. Is there a way to, you know, we pre-zone, can we pre-designate so that way, if in the future it ever goes, they can stay there forever if they want to keep it, but if it should ever develop, that it's done already, so that way it doesn't come back, because that home's, whether the bottom, the southern part stays industrial or not in the future, it just seems very awkward. But can we do that, or is that something which, because he is the property owner, we cannot pre-designate something and allow him to still keep the current use?
I don't think we can probably pre-designate. I think the direction to staff would be to maybe reach out to both of the owner of the single-family home and the owner to the south to see if we can get them to identify, you know, what their preference is, whether that's maintaining the industrial designation or extending the commercial from the site down south. I think either one of those options could reasonably work, but I'm not sure that there's a way to specify that change before it happens. Now, if it's your direction to bring back a city-initiated project to go through what we're doing now, for those properties, we can absolutely do that, if that's your direction.
And then to follow up on Councilmember Whelan's, with regards to the southern, if they wanted to just keep it industrial and do something industrial, because it is that, they can do it, correct?
And are we talking about the project site or the surrounding?
The section that's south of the current site, because we said our intention was going to be office, but, you know, we colored it wrong.
Yeah, the properties to the south, or the single-family home and the properties to the south, are going to run into a similar inconsistency issue. So if they're ready to develop as office, they're going to have an industrial general plan designation. And if they come in and propose to build industrial, they're going to have an office zoning. So eventually, those sites will need to be remedied, but we didn't have the information as to what those owners wanted to do with their land, or if they were willing to do anything at this point.
Okay, I understand now. Okay, thanks.
I have a question. Sorry, this is Planning Commission 101. I'm lost in the language. So, are we using, is office a general plan designation as opposed to, and commercial professional is the zoning? Because I feel like I'm not sure, I feel like we're using the words interchangeably, like office, industrial, CP, because it's already zoned CP. They could build offices on it. It's the zoning and general plan that don't match. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the zoning and the general plan don't match today. So industrial, the general plan designation today is industrial with a capital I, and the proposed general plan designation is office with a capital O. And the current zoning is commercial professional, CP, which is effectively an office-based zone district. It allows office and complementary uses.
So this doesn't require a rezone down
Correct.
the road for the owner to do what they need to do?
That's exactly correct.
Okay, all right. I feel like we were using the words all mixed together and I was getting confused. Thank you.
More questions? I'll open it to the public. Anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item? Yes, please. Give us your name and address.
My name is David White.
My question is on the traffic studies that's been going on in that general area, especially during the 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. during the weekdays. It gets pretty congested in there with residents usually frequenting the Starbucks area and the commercial properties that are to the east. I was wondering if the traffic studies have been performed to that to check and see if the zoning could be changed. Second of all, I have a question is that on the broad strokes that you said that when they remapped it, that it was possibly a mistake. Were the homes existing already there when they mapped it and painted that, or was it still just a vacant lot? And my question is that when you said multi-level buildings that are going to go there, are you talking 2, 3, 4 stories? And how many backyards can 4 stories appear or peek into, and how many homes can they peek into when you're building a 3, 4-story building?
So through the chair, there is not a development project that we currently have in process at this point. The property owner hasn't made an application just yet, but I suspect they intend to in the near future. So at this point, we don't have a traffic study. There is not been a basis to require any technical studies at this point, nor do we have a design. So I couldn't tell whether it would be 2, 3, or 4 stories. When I spoke to the conceptual multi-story building that would be viewed above the elevated freeway section, that should be viewed as a sort of a preferred urban design concept as opposed to a specifically defined standard at this point. That the goal there of such a concept would be to provide kind of a visual anchor point to folks entering and exiting the city proper, if you will. But that is not necessarily a requirement that would be enforced if the owner proposes something different.
And that residential property that's on the southwest portion of that property, that's the existing homestead that's been there way before even Clovis got out there.
Yeah, I believe by 2014, all of the surrounding uses that are developed now were in place.
So it's an older home, so it's not that it came after any initial mistake. It's an existing residence that has been there forever, and so they get grandfathered in. We don't, until they want to do something with that property that's different than what they have today, Clovis doesn't bother them.
Correct.
My question is mostly the properties to the north. Were those properties there when they had drawn or painted that map in? Were those properties already existing? And maybe that's why it's zoned for industrial rather than office.
Yeah, that was a consideration when we identified that there had been a change in 2014. And when we went back to talk to the staff, again, the Director of Planning and Development Services that worked on the general plan at that time indicated there was not an intentional change. It was simply an oversight. And whether it's commercial, professional, let's stick with the general plan designations, whether it's an office designation or an industrial general plan designation, both would support multi-story buildings. It's just that what the nature of the primary use would be, whether it be a commercial office or complementary use, or an industrial, manufacturing, warehousing kind of use.
Those houses, I think your question is what those houses.
Correct. Even to the east of that, over Clovis Avenue, there's many homes that are there also, and especially to the north, it looks like the property is adjacent to those homes or their backyards. It seems like it could be a privacy issue, and that's why initially it was zoned as industrial. And most industrial complexes, usually if it's 2 stories, they're not open windowed like office buildings are.
See if I have.
And those homes on Spruce there, not only to the north, but even over Spruce, the homes on the east side on Clovis Avenue, those are all, if you have a building that's 3, 4, or more stories, even 2 stories, there's a lot of privacy issues, I believe.
I'm sorry, may I?
Sure.
Did you say your name was David?
Yes, David White.
And David, I know you didn't give your address, and I'm just wondering, do you happen to live in that?
I live near there, yes.
Okay, all right. And so, I don't know if this brings any clarity to, what we're doing here, but what we've got here is we've got an inconsistency, right? So the zoning for that site in the red is commercial professional, right? So that's the zoning for that area. And to have industrial in commercial professional is inconsistent. So what we are talking about here is a new general plan designation for that area, because right now the way that it is designated in the general plan is inconsistent with that commercial professional purpose. So it may be that at some point it's going to be appropriate to weigh in, and not that it's inappropriate tonight, but to weigh in and say, hey, you know what, I want to have some input as a resident that lives next to this area as to what's going to go there, and I would prefer that it be, single story or something like that. But for our purposes, because of what is the history of this particular site, we've learned that there is an inconsistency between what it is that we have zoned it as and what the general plan designation is. And tonight we need to resolve that inconsistency. And based on the testimony that we've had from David and what he's relayed to us as a result of his conversations with the former planning director for the city of Clovis, this was not just commercial professional, but also, it was a misdesignation for the general plan, designation in that area, it should have been, office, not industrial. Does that?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
But my question is maybe that in the past, they had a foresight to see that there was going to be residential homes there. That's why they classified it as they did, rather than just do a broad paint stroke over that particular area.
You're saying that perhaps maybe that was intentional.
I agree,
it was
yes.
not. So that would be different than what it is. Dwight said, our planning director previously, and he was present during that particular time. And
1993.
I'm sorry. What about?
In 1993, when they first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's saying, hey, that landowner is correct. This actually should have been a general plan designation of office. And it may be that when it comes time to actually put something there, you may have some objections. And if there's going to be something particularly high, it's going to at least require a conditional use permit, presumably. And that's when you're going to be notified if there's going to be something particularly high.
I'll withdraw my statement.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David.
Anyone else in the public wishing to comment on this item? And then on the web?
No.
Bring it back to council. I'll move that we approve GPA 2022-002. And David, well, I'll let you get the second, then I want to.
I'll second that.
Okay. I want to make sure, David, that at some point your address is given to our planning and development folks so that if something happens here, you're automatically notified, because I don't know if you live within 500 feet of this particular area. I'm sorry? Okay. So we're going to want to make sure that if you could give your information to David, perhaps maybe we can make sure that you're tracked if something should happen to that particular site. Okay? All right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next item, number 12, consider approval, conduct public hearing and close election regarding assessment increase in landscape maintenance district number 1. Staff will be Glenn Estes, our Assistant Public Utility.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So we will do a quick presentation, just bringing you from where we were when we did the workshop back in February to where we are today, and hopefully where we will be tomorrow. So the two areas that we focused on for rate increases this year that required a 218 election was Zone 1 and Zone 5. Zone 1 is the area you see on the map, north of Herndon. It's going to be the median inside landscape in that area. This zone has not had a rate increase since 2004. We're requesting an increase at $21 to $99.50. The 2004 dollar value today would be about $118,000. So we're not even bringing it up to the same value it was in 2004, but it's what we feel like we need today. Yeah. What did I say, 1,000? I got a lot of numbers in my head right now. Thank you. Zone 5 is the park area. That's going to be east of Sunnyside, south of Herndon. That area hasn't had a rate increase since 2013. We're requesting to increase that one, $22.20. The playground structures are a major component to that. They're 28 years old is the oldest one, I believe. So we wanted to, this rate increase would provide about $70,000 a year in revenue, and we'll be able to replace some of those older structures, as well as increase the service rate. We reduced the service rate in 2016 when we had a failed election then, so we're hoping to fix that. So reason for the rate increase, Zone 1 hasn't been since 2004, and raising expenditures, Zone 5, not since 2013, and to address the playground issues as well as a service level. So that brings us to where we are, well, since we did the workshop in February. So since then, we sent out 218 ballots and notices to 11,000 people, over 11,000 people in Zone 1, and over 3,600 people in Zone 5. They received a notice that looked like this, as I believe you guys have seen before. They received a ballot. We posted on social media. We sent public notices in the Business Journal to inform them of tonight. We had about 4,600 ballots returned as of Friday when we checked. We did a rough check, but it's about that number. And we typically see ballots returned in the low 30 percentile, so we'll receive the ballot numbers we had kind of expected. So going forward is we conduct a public hearing, accept any ballots that maybe people want to change or submit, and then if approved, then we will start tabulating the ballots tomorrow and bring them back on, the results back on June 6th for the results. So with that concludes our presentation. I have Eric Aller, the Parks manager here, as well as a representative from Franciscan Associates who did the 218 ballot noticing and advising for us on this process.
Questions for Glenn or Eric from the council? No one? Seeing none. At this time, the public hearing for the assessment increase of benefit zone 1 and 5 within Landscape Maintenance District Number 1 is now open. Comments can be provided and ballots can be submitted until the close of the public hearing tonight. Anyone in the public wishing to make a comment on this item or turn in a ballot?
Again, my name is David White. I'm a homeowner in Clovis in the area that is suggesting the rate increase. And I was looking at the flyer that came in the mail to everybody, and it was kind of shocking that we haven't seen a rate increase since 2004. And as a matter of fact, I'm all for a rate increase, but unfortunately, I think the timing is bad. We all know what current climate that we're in right now. We all know that inflation is through the roof. We know that products, goods, and services are all going up, including power, and including now they want to increase our water rate. And like I said, I'm all for it. I just think the timing is bad. It could have been done 3, 4, 5 years ago when the economy was booming, and we could have just absorbed that now. But now if we see an increase, we're going to see that directly reflected as well as when we receive our PG&E bill, when we receive our grocery bills. I think the timing is just poor on it. And second of all, I received this notice in my bi-monthly bill for the city of Clovis in my water, garbage, and sewer. And the third paragraph down here states, empty, clean, and dry. They want us to rinse our bottles and jars clean. We're in the middle of a drought right now, and we want to have our rates increased for water, and we want to rinse our bottles and jars clean. That's kind of hard for me to believe that that was in my Clovis bill during a very drought year. Thank you.
And for staff, so the timing is for, how many times have we attempted to do this? When was the last time?
2004 was the last election we had in this zone.
Okay.
We did actually bring this in 2020 as well, but we started into the pandemic and we rolled it back and stopped at that time, just not knowing which way things were going to go. So here we are 2 years later, bringing it back. So we didn't actually proceed with the 218 then.
And we started this one in February of this year. So, things are worse now than they were in February when we started. They weren't as bad. So I think it's just this moment maybe doesn't line up, but I think that's the other.
And this other issue of empty, cleaning, and drying, that's a new California mandated
that's going to be language
program.
That's going to be language-related recycling, and typically that's what we advertise for recycled products. We don't put contaminated products in the recycle bin. I think that's what he's reading.
But Sacramento is requiring now that in our recyclables, our green waste, we throw away
organics.
Organics. So is this part of that whole initiative? That these containers should be empty, clean, and dry?
That language is probably consistent with the new SB 1383 that requires organics, but that's also language that's been in recycling for a while as well. It's reemphasized in the new legislation as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
My name is Paul Williams, and I live in Clovis since 2010. And I know the economic situation may not be the best right now, and I'm certainly not rich, but I'm in support of the rate increase. The last time I was up here speaking at the council, I was 425 pounds. I use all the bike trails. I live in Zone 1, and I ride all over the place, and I appreciate nicer parks, and having a family of my own, it sometimes costs money to do what you need to do, and I have the mentality that I'm too poor to buy cheap. You can buy 10 pair of Payless shoes, or you can get one pair, spend like $200 on a pair of shoes that you can get resold the rest of your life. So I'm in support of the rate increase. I think it's long overdue, and I don't think I'm going to miss $21.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? On the web?
None.
Okay, at this point, anyone wishing to withdraw a previously submitted ballot can do so. Anyone wishing to submit a new ballot in place of a ballot previously submitted may also do so. Only one ballot per parcel will be accepted and counted. No ballots may be accepted or withdrawn once the public hearing is closed. So does anyone want to change their vote or submit a new vote today? Anyone on the web? Nobody? Is there anyone present who would like to submit a withdrawal ballot? Yes or no? No. At this time, does anyone in the public wish to make a public comment on this item? I guess I already did that, so we're ahead. At this point, the public hearing is now closed. Does the city clerk have a count or estimate of the number of ballots returned?
With no additional ballots turned in at the close of the public hearing, we are at approximately 4,600 ballots received.
Okay. Given the number of ballots returned, the ballot tabulation cannot take place tonight. The ballots will be unsealed and tabulated in public view beginning at 8 a.m. on May 17, 2022 at the City of Clovis Police and Fire Headquarters located at 1233 5th Street. And any interested person may attend and watch the ballot unsealing and tabulation process. The tabulation will be conducted from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is not complete, and if not completed, tomorrow will commence again in the same location at 8 a.m. on May 18th, 2022 until completed tomorrow. So I'm thinking 17th through the 18th, right? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the ballots and continue this matter to June 6, 2022 meeting for the report of election results following completion of the ballot tabulation process.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Whalen seconding. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. So the motion carries 5-0, no nays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your weight loss, your health, good job.
Great.
Excellent.
Item 12, conduct public hearing, no, that's item 13 now. Consider approval of resolution adoption of the City of Clovis 2022-2023 Annual Action Plan for the expenditure of Community Development Block Grants continued from May 9th, 2022. And our staff member is our management analyst, Claudia Casares.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for your time this evening. Tonight's public hearing is a required step in the city's process in applying for and obtaining community development block grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. As an entitlement community, Clovis is further required to prepare and adopt an annual action plan, which is before you today for your consideration, review, and adoption. The action plan is a spending plan for the upcoming fiscal year's CDBG allocation. And before I move forward, I wanted to announce that there was a change in the CDBG entitlement from what is in your staff report. And I will get to this later on in my presentation, but I did want to pass it out so you could refer to it when I get to that slide. Typically, the city receives a very similar CDBG allocation to what was allocated the previous year. This year, our HUD representative advised us about a month ago to expect a 4.5% decrease. And we found out on Friday that we actually received a 6.6% decrease rather than the 4.5% decrease. And so the table that I'm handing out today has the CDBG allocation that is provided to the city of $698,855. It's not really clear why the city's allocations decrease is not the 4.5%, and it's actually the 6.6%, but I have messaged to my contacts at HUD and throughout the state to see why that is the case, and we will get back to administration and city council if you so desire. And now I'll provide a brief general overview of what CDBG funds can be used for, as well as the specific projects being proposed for the year. A qualifying CDBG project must meet one of the three national objectives, either be a benefit to low to moderate income people, eliminate slums or blight, or meet an urgent need. To meet this objective, the projects will need to fulfill one of the following criteria. Either the household being assisted is directly income qualified based on their source income documentation as low income, or the project serves a group of people who are presumed under HUD guidelines to be low income, or the project is located in a census tract block group where at least 51% of the residents are low income. 51%. And this map shows our census tracts where at least 51% of the residents that live in those census tracts are low to moderate income. All of the blue highlighted tracts are my world for the next several years, and where we will be spending our majority of our CDBG funds. At the top boundary of the top census tract is Herndon. There are many uses authorized by HUD for the use of CDBG funds. This slide shows a few of the most common uses nationwide, like infrastructure, street improvements, ADA improvements, affordable housing, amongst others. The process of selecting CDBG-funded projects for this upcoming year for the city of Clovis was very similar to what we've done in previous years. First, city staff starts by coordinating with city leadership, administration, and other departments who have activities that are eligible under the CDBG program. Through the course of several internal meetings, staff reviews past CDBG activity performance. We analyze and identify gaps in upcoming priority projects. Following that, city staff solicited public input through our citizen participation process. Our stakeholder engagement process includes holding a public input meeting, which was advertised on our social media. The public input meeting is a time for citizens and stakeholders to meet with city staff, ask questions, and propose potential projects. The public meeting was held via an online forum, although we did provide an accommodation for anybody wanting to meet in person. There was one public comment received, which was a comment on our Facebook page, which requested funds be targeted towards adult special need programs and housing activities. Also, as part of the citizen participation process, the city then holds this public hearing in front of city council. This public hearing was noticed both in the paper, on the city social media accounts, and on our city website. There was a mandatory minimum 30-day comment period between the notice being published in our paper and tonight's public hearing. Please note that the public notice stated City Council would hold this meeting last Monday, May 9th, or soon thereafter. This public hearing was included in the May 9th agenda, but it was pulled and rescheduled for today because we didn't have our entitlement numbers until last Friday, as previously mentioned. To date, no other comments, written or oral, have been submitted to the city. If there are any public comments presented this evening, they will be added to our action plan prior to the submission ahead. So every 5 years, HUD requires that the city prepare a consolidated plan. This sets the priorities for spending CDBG funds during the following 5-year period. The planning period we are currently in actually started last year, and so we're going to be entering the second year of a 5-year consolidated plan period. A substantial amount of community outreach is undertaken to determine gaps in services, set priorities for types of community development projects, and include those activities in our consolidated plan. The activities on this slide identify the priorities for this current 5-year period, and as referenced, oh, you can't even see, sorry, and as referenced by the start items, all projects that are being proposed for this upcoming fiscal year were determined to be a high priority. And now let me flip to it so I can actually name them. Job creation, retention, ADA sidewalk improvements, street alley improvements, code enforcement, housing rehabilitation. And those are all on the high priority side of our 5-year consolidated plan. Next, I'm going to show you a handful of pictures of recently completed projects, which I think is always the fun part of at least my job. The first picture shows housing improvements made to the master bedroom access to an elderly woman's home. This retired public service worker requested city assistance with making ADA-type improvements to her house. The back deck stairs didn't have a railing, the steps were rotten, and the wood floor was rotten as well. The steps were replaced in compliance with local building requirements. A railing was installed on both sides of the stairs, and the wood floor landing was also repaired. At the same house, we also improved the access to a secondary access to her house. As you can see, the door doesn't even align with the steps leading out to the back, and so we installed a new composite deck with steps and railings per building code requirements. The second project shows improvements made to the restroom of an elderly woman's mobile home. The mobile home was over 60 years old, having outlived its mostly useful life. Nevertheless, the owner had kept up the home in good condition and only requested assistance with repairs to the restroom. The restroom had a traditional type tub, which was broken throughout. Valves didn't work very well. The plumbing needed replacement. There was water damage to the tile walls. The tile flooring was also broken and lifting up, causing trip hazards for the resident. The city provided a new walk-in shower pan with walls, new plumbing fixtures, a new window, and we replaced the substandard flooring with new vinyl sheet flooring. This project shows a CDBG-funded CIP project recently completed, which included reconstruction of curb ramps, gutters, driveways, and construction of new sidewalks to help our neighborhoods remain accessible and walkable. The project was located near the intersection of Rialto and Villa and filled gaps in accessibility throughout the area. This picture is on Rialto just west of Villa and shows the new sidewalk and other related improvements. This next slide shows the funding proposals for the upcoming fiscal year. I'm not sure where there's something there on the side, but it's the table that was handed out at the beginning of my presentation. It includes housing rehabilitation grants for low-income households, reconstruction of the Brookhaven Rosebrook Alley, improvements to the Gold Canal Trail between Peach and Minnewawa, code enforcement through our area-based policing, and assistance to low-income families as part of the commercial kitchen. In addition, 20% of our allocation is available for administrative cost, and that is what's being proposed here. If any of these projects come in under budget, the following backup projects are identified for funding. Additional housing rehab grants, potential ADA improvement grants, reconstruction of the Brookfield Alley, and or reconstruction of the Brookfield Cole Alley. And it's staff's recommendation that council approve a resolution formally adopting the City of Clovis's 22-23 Annual Action Plan in order to comply with HUD requirements in receipt of CDBG funding. And that concludes my report, and we're available for questions.
Questions for Mr. Casares?
Thank you, Claudia, for the report. A question on the projects, the Good Canal Trail, that's a current trail, correct? That's not one of the new ones that we have.
It is an existing dirt trail that aligns the Gold Canal. Okay. It is not ready for pedestrian access, and that's why we're proposing this project through Public Utilities Department, is providing some amenities so that it is more open for pedestrians to use the canal. Okay.
And I know that it will fall more into Scott's shop, but, you know, as we move with regards to the agreement, you know, hopefully, you know, you work closely, especially a lot of the neighborhoods down there. You know, Councilmember Bessinger has been a strong proponent of getting those canals and how we connect them and how we can use different funds to try to get those trails up and running as quickly as possible. And I think when we were talking about those, we wanted to prioritize sort of the Southwest, and hopefully that remains sort of our priority as well.
I know that Councilmember wanted to, if I could just add, is going to be that this is going to be kind of a pilot project for our recently approved Master Trails Agreement with FID, and that'll be the kickoff one, and we're going to try and do that one right so that we can build more out there.
Excellent, excellent. I know, Claudia, we are always left out whenever there's funding to the Central Valley, Fresno area, because it all goes to Fresno. If they're going to give any money, it goes to Fresno, and then we are left out, and you are working with only whatever CDBG funds there is. And currently, there's a lot of homeless money coming to the city of Fresno, potentially the county, and I would just encourage that, you know, you be a major part of those discussions, because our city borders Fresno, and what they do sometimes may or may not affect us, but how we can share in working together, in sharing some of those resources, because a lot of the project off-ramps, and now it's going to be project off-canals, it's going to affect, and it's going to, you know, we're going to be working together. So just stay in touch with those, and I know that you have a heart and a burden for especially many of the disadvantaged and those who are displaced. And so please, however you can get the city of Fresno and the Madera Continuum of Care to help us out, I think that would just be great. Is there a way for us to find out how many of our residents took advantage of rental assistance, even though we may not have as much? They may have gone through the county. I know the Fresno City did a lot more because they got actually more. And I know it's not related to CDBG, but because CDBG affects a lot of the populations that you serve, if you can get something like that to us, I'd be interested to know. And I think that sort of data helps us advocate in the future going, look how much the need was, but we didn't get anything. How can we get more for our residents? And the last one is, any future plans for more habitat homes or affordable homes? Because the past projects have just been, you know, a highlight of some sort of the work that your department does. Any plans at all with habitat or, I forgot the other organization.
Self-help, maybe?
Self-help, yeah.
Yeah. We do have, and you'll hear in the budget presentation, funding available for minor housing rehabilitation, first-time home buyer assistance, and major housing rehabilitation through not CDBG, but through the state-funded home program and through the Cal Home program. And I recently administered an RFQ, of which we haven't announced the awards yet, but they will be coming to council at the beginning of June for those type of projects.
Excellent. Thank you, Claudia.
And I did want to note, would be remiss if I didn't thank Andy for having had Clovis remain as a board member for the Fresno Madero Continuum of Care, probably since you started with Clovis. And so I'm actually, have taken the place, and I'm a board member on the FMCOC.
Sure. More of a comment. I'm very happy with how we administer our block grants, and I'm very happy to see the Gold Canal Trail. This is, I mean, we have an area of town that is underserved with parks. This gives us, the linear park thing, and I think this could be a really good start. And thanks to staff for getting that thing with getting things taken care of with the irrigation district. Well,
I'm just going to jump on the trail wagon as well here, because this particular area is is it called Helm Ranch Park? And so there's a park there next to a ponding basin, right? And so the trail, is that going to be on the south side or the north side of the canal?
I believe it's going to be on the south side of the canal, but the mastermind is making his way out to talk about the plans for that area.
Okay.
So that's Basin S Park, and it's going to run adjacent to Basin S Park on the south side of the canal.
So not on the residential side of the Gould Canal?
So I wouldn't, because the south side, we can connect both to Peacham and Iwawa.
Yeah.
The north side, we're going to have to look at more. It's not that we would preclude it necessarily, but it would be much more difficult to make a connection if people want to traverse through that area. So we're probably going to focus on the south side for sure at first.
And then if they were to cross over Minnewawa, that's when it would be getting into Tarpey, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then Tarpey will run up to Clovis Avenue, or does it even go beyond Clovis Avenue?
It would stop at Clovis Avenue, okay. And there's some big constraints there when trying to cross those arterials. But we've met with the county. We're working with them on how we get in and out of these county islands and through the city of Clovis.
Yeah. Okay, that's going to be a county issue. There are lots of parts, it seems like there's a lot in Tarpey, which is not particularly conducive to those who ride their bikes kind of on that Ashland Avenue. It's a little bit of a tight because you get that curve as you go through there. And then to have that connector somehow would be pretty helpful through Tarpey. So to the degree you can work with the county on trying to get that trail to connect, maybe they can use some of their own Cdbg funds for that.
Yes. I had one more comment on the canals. Let's, not that we don't do a great job, but let's really do a good job, because it's what they first see when you come into Clovis. And that's you used to go there to Costco. You go there now for DSS and Winco. And so because you're driving into, if we can do a feature where it really shows, put a counter there, something where it shows this is a Clovis trail. Because if you don't, then you have to get all the way to Clovis, which really see how nice a Clovis trail is. And so that's just my comment, where we make it where, what we do in Loma Vista, all the corners, we do those entry features, and you kind of go, oh, that's going into a neighborhood and the trail going in. And so that area, I would just say, let's just do something where it catches the eye.
Absolutely, and we were working with Andy and Claudia to start that seed funding, and then hopefully be able to match it through some public utilities funds. We want to do it right. We want to have entries from the park. We absolutely entry features on both sides. We want the amenities, the benches, even though toters aren't necessarily the amenity, we want toters and everything along the trail system. Being a little facetious there. But yeah, absolutely. We need to look at all that, and even to the extent in working with our public safety folks, is whether we have the blue phone call, just everything. We also have to look at potentially cameras and everything. The funding's limited for doing like we have everywhere else in the city, but for sure we're going to have a really good pilot project. That's the goal. I don't want to promise anything, but, we're shooting for late fall, to really get the project underway. The sooner the better, and, would set the example for the other, places where we can put, these trails. And on canal banks, that's probably one of the actual easier ones to go at when we start getting on the Dry Creek, south of Herndon and other, even though it's already open, but to make that more, complementary to our trail system, there are much more complications that we're going to be facing in those older areas of town.
And I was going to mention something on trails also, in case you haven't driven down Clovis Avenue, south of Shields down to McKinley, bless you, south of Shields to McKinley, the city of Fresno is in the process of installing a really nice trail system right in there. And if you think about where that's at with Shields, the Old Town Trail ends just a quarter mile north of that. So we're actually it's still in the city of Fresno, but we're actually pretty close to having that trail system connected through there that goes several miles.
Okay, no further comments or questions from staff, from council. I'll open up to the public. Anyone in the public wishing to comment on these CDBG funds, Community Development Block Grant Funds? No one here on the web?
None.
Okay, so bring it back to the council.
I'll move that we approve, staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
That's with the new numbers, Claudia.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Item 14, consider review and introduction of a resolution 2022-23 City of Clovis Annual Budget 5-Year Capital Improvement Program and information regarding the Clovis Assessor Agency, Jay Shingle, Finance Director, and John Holt, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and take the lead on it, but I want you to know that this definitely is a finance document that takes months to prepare and hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of staff. In the audience tonight, I have Jay Shingle at the staff table, and in the audience, I have Susan Evans and Jeff Blanks. I want to thank them for all the work that they've done on this. And I have Jay there in case you have the hard questions. As you know, the budget season begins in January with the work on the 5-year forecast. The 5-year forecast is generally presented at the first meeting in March. In March and in April, staff develops the budget. Tonight, staff will introduce the budget. And the recommendation is to approve the introduction and continue the item to June 13, where staff will come back and make the department presentations. Taking a look at the numbers from the 2022-23 budget, in total, the total budget is just short of $300 million. The budget is $298 million in total, which consists of $43 million in capital improvements and $254 million in operations. And the operations is broken down by the general fund is $94 million. The biggest departments there are going to be police and fire. Enterprise funds is $89 million. $67 million for internal service funds, and $5 million for special revenue funds. In trying to capture what the budget is in 2023, it's a restoration and growth budget. The general fund emergency reserve is at 22% or $21 million, so it's 22% of the total expenditures, and again, $21 million. We're estimating a $4.6 million unreserved general fund balance, which allows for significant investments. And if you take a look at the chart I have up there, I just kind of graphed where the reserves were at. This goes 10 years, and if you take a look at where we were compared to where we are, we're 2013-14, we're at 16 or 17%, and if approved, we'll be at 22% this year. As far as what this budget is and where the investments took place, the focused investments are in older neighborhoods for $27 million. Starting off with park improvements, including a new trail, which we just talked about, and a dog park. A mobile recreation program for our rec department. Affordable housing, over $7.5 million, and that's what Claudia was just talking about for you, Councilmember Juanatua. street, sidewalk, and alley reconstruction, economic development investments in entrepreneurs and older commercial centers. With regards to investments in enhanced public safety, we're going to increase of 3 sworn police officers, and based on the direction we received last week, if the TOT were to be improved in November, possibly 6 officers. Restoration of vacant corporal, sergeant, and lieutenant positions. It replaces 15 vehicles in the police department. Includes operational costs for the new fire station in Loma Vista. Includes funding for the reconstruction of Fire Station number 2 and the additions to the fire training facility. It provides funds for the purchase of a new self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department, or SCUBA. It includes purchase of 2 fire department command vehicles. As far as securing our water supplies and systems, it includes an upgrade to the city's SCADA system. We continue the investment with the Fresno Irrigation District for future water supply. Provides funding for the design of additional water storage reservoir. Provides funding for an increased capacity of recycled water system. And on an annual basis, we'll continue to invest in our employees. It includes a budgeted cost of living increases, includes funds for training and tuition. It also includes new positions, a total of 12 new positions. Continuing with the investments, as far as planning for the future, it includes funding for the general plan audit and the general plan update. It includes funding for the housing element update, includes funding for the environmental impact reports for large development projects and master plans. As far as economic impacts, it funds business attraction and retention efforts. It develops and furthers entrepreneurial programs. It focuses on a revitalization of underutilized commercial properties and marketing the city as a medical hub. And we will continue to serve our seniors. We're anticipating the senior center to open up in the spring of 2023, Shauna, approximately. Taking a look at some of the challenges we have. Well, the revenues are up. We'll never have enough revenues to completely meet the demand for everything that the city needs. So the general fund does not meet all needs. So I put this together because I think you've seen different charts, but what this particular chart is going to be between 2005 and 2021. It shows the population in the bars being orange from 2005 being approximately 85,000 to 2021 being approximately 122,000. And then, as you can see, the gray line is going to be the number of full-time employees per 1,000. And this is pretty consistent, showing in 2006, 7, and 8, we were spending quite a bit more, and we had quite a bit more employees per 1,000. The recession hits, and you can see between 9 and 10, a significant decrease from approximately 5.8 employees per 1,000 to approximately a little bit less than 5. And you can see that's been a pretty flat line. That flat line is going to be the number of employees that we has not stayed in balance with the number of additional residents we put in place. Continuing on with some of the challenges we have, we talked about inflation. We talked about the inflation and the overall economy being a wild card as far as us being able to forecast what the next couple of years is going to look like. The chart to the right is just going to be inflation year over year from the 60s to March of 2022. And we're currently hitting 40-year highs compared to going back to the late 70s and early 80s. So in that light, forecasting and finances are likely to be more volatile in the near future due to economic disruptions such as inflation and supply chain issues. Many economists are forecasting some form of recession in 2023. So in summary, we're going to continue to monitor the economic conditions. It's very critical and may require a pivot or adjustment in the coming years. The budget is a growth budget, but doesn't catch the city up completely. We continue to build the general fund reserve, and it allows for significant investments in older Clovis neighborhoods. Again, staff is recommending the City Council approve the introduction of the budget and continue the item to June 13th, where staff will come back by department and present the individual department updates with a recommendation that we adopt the budget on June 13th, or if not, it's continued to the 20th, but per the ordinance, we have to have an adopted budget by June 30. That concludes staff's report, and Jay is available for questions.
Questions for staff, especially Jay?
Thanks. So can you go back to that staffing graph? Yeah, that one. So, I mean, I don't know what it looked like before 2005, but I know that we were kind of experiencing some halcyon days when we were in those early 2000s, and then, of course, we, had the rug pulled out from underneath us. Subsequent to that, we do seem to be stabilizing in our per capita employee per 1,000 residents. Do you believe that that's kind of where we should be? Is it the 4.8 per 1,000, or would you like to, I don't know how you even make a determination as to what is the appropriate, best practice for per capita employees for a city. But I didn't know if you wanted to share some thoughts on that.
No, it was just, I wanted to go back and take a look at it, and we did this for the police department. I wanted to see, well, let's take a look at citywide and see what it looked like. Mm-hmm. And it's remarkably similar, and I couldn't tell you exactly what the number of employees per 1,000 should be. The easy answer would be more. But as you can see, this year we're recommending adding 12 positions, and if you compare the addition of 12 positions with an increase of, I think over the past 10 years, we've grown on an average in population just a little over 2%. Mm-hmm. And there's some departments that are struggling more than others, but if you take a look at the police department is probably what you're most familiar with as far as asking for additional positions, but it's overall citywide, we've pretty much flatlined.
So that, if we were to add the 12 positions, I don't know if that's what's reflected in that last bar and point on the line. It feels like if we were to add 12 more positions, that would be the next one over. And would we still be at the 4.8, or are we getting higher up, like to 5?
I don't know. Okay. To be honest with you, this date is through 2021. I could easily take a look at it.
I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I can take a look at it.
Ron?
John or Jay, these projections are made with sort of the expenses with the current inflation rate, so that way it's more realistic, or just what we've been using? Because if it's 2021, a lot of inflation has been the last 5-6 months, and so I just want to know if the expenses are pretty realistic, or will we come back should expenses for every department be higher than what we projected?
Jay, go ahead.
Sure. So in this particular budget book in front of you, we have projected an increase of 3.66% for cost of living and expenditures going up, which is basically the 3-year average at the time that we did the 5-year forecast. Okay. So in this proposed budget is an increase in most expenditures of 3.66%. If it's negotiated differently, then we would come back potentially in July or August with the budget amendment to true this document up to what's necessary based off of especially negotiated.
And then, Jay, if I could just ask, is going to be that when we forecasted the cost of expenditures for the next year with inflation running at somewhere around 8.5%, would you say that we included enough of an estimate in expenditures to cover the 8.5 or not?
No, I would say that we did not include enough in the expenditures to cover the current rate of inflation in this document.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. And so how do we account for that if it doesn't go down at all?
You basically control it through departments and limit their budget authority to this book regardless of what inflation is running. In other words, we don't spend above what we're authorized.
We make do. Sorry. In one example, with gas running at $6 a gallon, if we budgeted it for $5, we are going to use less gas, or we're going to come back with a budget amendment.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or the departments are going to be forced to save in other line items to make up the difference.
Okay. Thank you. That helps. Ben?
I philosophically, it's a growth budget because, tell me about how you describe, why that was, how do you describe that?
The growth budget can be described as we received 2 tranches of ARPA money and CARES money in the prior year, one-time monies, of which we are able to dedicate to one-time spending, where historically over the past almost 10 years, maybe even 12, we have not. We've pretty much leased all vehicles. In this particular budget, and Jay can expand, but acquiring the 15 police cars this year, we're set aside money so we can actually buy them. Interest rates have gone up significantly. In years past, we would have just leased them. There was favorable lease rates, but in the long run, when we used to do it, we would set aside money, and then when it was the vehicle was to be replaced, we would have the money set aside to buy it. So we're trying to get back to that. Jay, any expansion on that?
No, this is the first budget that we have both transfers in there for current assets and expenditures in there for future assets. So we're basically rebuilding the fleet program dollar by dollar.
It may be a point without a distinction, but it doesn't seem to me it's not growth, it's really restoration. It's really things that we should have been doing for 10 or 12 years, but we didn't have a chance. Because what scares me is it's not a trajectory we can keep up. We're never going to get that ARPA money. We're not going to, whatever. But it's really to get us back to sort of whatever level was, and then we need to hold on to that. So the challenge going forward is really a sustainability budget at this rate with some increase, but growth might send a message that we've got this wild amount of money and we're going to do all these wild things that we wouldn't have ever thought of without the money, but really we've always had it in our plans, we just didn't have the money at the moment. So the word struck me, it's like, I don't know, we're going to maybe a recession in 2023, you look at those 2008 numbers up there, we don't want to repeat that. So anyway, it struck me as it's not growth for the sake of growth, it's really growth to catch up for investments that we maybe didn't make over the last 10 years. I don't know.
Restoration would have been better.
It strikes me that that's really the point. We're trying to invest what we have now in this one-time money to sort of keep us on track, but if 2008 happens again, we want to at least be protected. So I don't know, just a comment, I suppose, more than anything else.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I'll open it to the public. Anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item?
Like I said, my name's Paul Williams. I live in Clovis, and I think it's refreshing to see that we're planning for and adding some police. I'm of the personal belief that the war on law enforcement started in 2008, and we need to do all we can to make sure we stay consistent with the lawlessness that probably will increase out there. And so it's, as times get harder, I don't see criminals saying, I want to stay home and watch TV. I see them wanting to get out and do more, and it's a good feeling that we have more law enforcement out there. That's what I have.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Anyone else? Anyone on the web?
No.
Okay, so this introduction and consider a motion to continue this to public hearing on June. Your motion?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. See us all in June 13th.
Thank you.
Council item. June. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was paying attention. Council items, consider approval to submit a letter of support for Senate Bill 1410, Caballero, California Environmental Act, Transportation Impacts. City Manager, John Holt.
Thank you, Mayor. Senate Bill 1410 by Caballero relates to vehicle miles traveled. This bill would reduce VMP applicability in environmental reviews. This would reduce challenges to developing housing and job-generating projects in areas planned for growth. This would reduce VMT applicability in the city in environmental reviews by only requiring the application of the law in high-quality transit areas. And the city of Clovis has very little, if any, of these areas that meet this definition. So that was really good news if this actually went through. It was amended on Friday. And the amendment kind of killed the deal, but it was already on the agenda, so I included it. The language that was amended was going to be to the neighborhood of on or before January 1st, 2025. The amendment calls for a study by the OPR on the impacts of Senate Bill 743 implementation and a grant made available to local governments to assist in Senate Bill 743 implementation. So what this means is that we won't see any relief of Senate Bill 743, at least in the near term, until another attempt to amend Senate Bill 743. This will continue to move forward, and staff is still recommending a letter of support. It's just knowing that nothing will be done until that study is done by the OPR and the implementation of Senate Bill 743. That concludes staff's report, and we're available for questions.
True. Sorry.
So this, thank you. So the letter would be a support as amended?
As amended.
Or support before it was amended?
It's already been amended, so the staff would still support. It's moving in the right direction.
Okay.
Still moving in the right direction.
But it would have been in a much better direction if it wasn't amended.
And, you know, this is one of my pet peeves because, you know, Sacramento has to do something to lift some of the regulations that hinder local governments from even trying to help in especially with low-income housing. And it would be a good move if they would do something about it. But that doesn't seem, to me, it seems 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So, but I do want to show support to Senator Caballero because at least she tried, and we need to keep trying. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment on this item? Okay, anyone on the web?
No.
So, bring back to council. So the request now is for a letter of support as amended.
Second.
A motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Thank you.
And city manager's comments.
Real quickly, just a couple things we've already covered. One is going to be a reminder of the Public Works Luncheon on Wednesday. A reminder that we have the Mayor's Breakfast for the first time in 3 years on Thursday morning at 7. And then staff is working with the City Attorney's Office to bring the TOT item back for City Council consideration on June 6th. That's all I've got.
Okay. Council comments. Bong?
I wanted to say I went to the prayer breakfast, and so Mayor, excellent prayer up there for the entire county. Also went to the policy conference on Thursday and Friday. Excellent job, staff. Received a lot of great compliments on how our staff works so well in collaborating and making things just easy for people to come here. And so thank you for just being a great partner with those who want to come here to hold a conference or meetings, whatever it is. So excellent job. Went to the Provost and Pritchard, sort of their grand opening, beautiful building out there. So very nice. It's nice seeing that getting built out. And also went to see the Mountain Mike's ribbon cutting that I think they came into the old Pizza Hut there on the Vaughan Shopping Center. And then wanted to report out on Measure C. The last meeting was in person, and we finally voted to approve the local funding choice allocation. And so the allocation is based upon road miles and population. So 25% road miles, 75% population. So that is fair in that there's a lot of county road miles in which, you know, we help ourselves, we also help our neighbors, and we've kept that same formula. The next meeting we'll vote on the 30-year versus 20-year, but the allocation percentages that we voted on were based upon 30-year numbers, but if it's 20-year, it would just be less. It is much more local focused, meaning street focused. So for example, community rehab, and these are sort of not the exact numbers, but very close. Community rehab, which is sort of local streets, 52% will go there. Community flex is 5%, active transportation, 1%, transit, 12%, and local discretionary funds, 12%. So in other words, it may not fit the buckets that everybody wanted, but because of the local discretion and the community flex, it allows the jurisdiction to put it where they need it most. So for us, it may mean we may, you know, transit may not get as much, but we can use some of that money to put into transit if that should be our need locally. And it reduced a lot from regional, because the last measure, there was a lot of regional projects. Regional now is only 14% or so. So I think this is something in which I think a lot of the jurisdictions can really make work for their communities. And so we'll vote now. This coming Wednesday, we'll be meeting at the COG, and we'll hopefully get to decide on if we want the 30-year or 20-year. I think the recommendation from staff has been the 30-year because people are used to it, and not only that, it meets the needs. There was a column there that shows Measure C, and if you got other funding, how much of the completion of these different buckets, and they were very high, and we get higher, meaning completion met of the projects that are submitted if we go to the 30-year. And so it sort of makes sense that if we do that, we get more of what the needs are in the entire county. And so that, I wanted to report that out. If you have any questions, please let me know. I wanted to thank staff through the process because I think they have been critical and vital in helping, I guess, us decision makers in understanding sort of, hey, they got this allocation, does it work for Clovis? You know, here are the projects, does it work? And, you know, you take someone like me, I go, I don't know if it works, you know, do we have enough projects to make it work here? And even if it's a Monday, here's the formula, can you give me something, because we're meeting Wednesday, staff, you know, looked at it, looked at all our projects, and each time they came forward, they were also willing to meet with me in person, so that way, you guys know the needs of the roads and the projects in our city much better than I think any of us. And with your feedback, I think the citizens of Clovis are best looked after because you really are helping us make the best decision. I appreciate Mike, to Renee, to John, and to everyone that has been helping us get there, because you understand this thing to the detail. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Yes. So I had mentioned, gosh, months ago, related to the trail counter over there at Clovis Avenue and Nees. It's been busted for months, and I mean the lights are on, but it's not counting. And I think that there was an issue with price for that repair. And I understand that, but at some point, you know, in the city of Clovis, if we see something broken for an extended period of time, that is probably inconsistent with what we're trying to communicate to our citizens. So if we can expedite that repair, I think it would be good, for the community to see that, it's not broken anymore.
We'll take care of it. And just a side note to that is going to be that it turns out that's a manufacturer in Canada, and the actual part that we needed, of course, came out of France. So we should delay shipment.
You go get it.
He was just in Germany. I don't know why you picked that up.
I could have picked it up. Jeff is still there, let's call him back.
All right, thank you, John.
Drew? I'm going to be, as a member of the Air Board, governing board, I'm going to be sending a letter opposing, there's a Assembly Bill 2550 by Dr. Rambula, which is going to create, if in the event that the San Joaquin Valley does not meet the Clean Air Act provisions, and that'll be probably in the next couple of years, it creates a situation where now community-based groups are forced into the process and now get a seat at the table, and it doesn't properly describe the who, what, when. I think we'd have environmental justice groups, and it's going to be difficult, and I'm going to be submitting something to staff to get this on the agenda, and maybe next week, or our next meeting, so we can maybe write a letter ourselves. Because it just creates another level of bureaucracy, and I think it's actually going to be harmful. But that's all I have. Lynn?
Just to follow up on the Measure C comments, again, I want to thank Vaughn. He is my lifeline out there when I'm looking like, okay, what am I going to do now? Thank you, Vaughn, for been an awesome member of that. I wanted to say two things about the other things I would add to the Measure C. I think one of the best parts about it, because 30 years is a long time, it builds in these periodic reviews by the community to see if something's changed. Because there will be technology in 30 years that we can't even imagine today. So I do think it builds in a way, a more intentional way, and a better Citizens Oversight Committee process to make sure that we have a chance to weigh in. And I think local jurisdictions can do their own outreach as they choose, right? So if Clovis wanted to do some public gathering on transportation needs to affect Measure C spending, that would be possible. So I think that's a positive. And then the only thing I would say is the sort of 1% on active transportation gets people excited, like Mark Kepler. But over 30 years, I can't remember the numbers, it's significantly more money. It's a smaller percent than the current measure, but over 30 years, the dollars to active transportation, do you remember, was it 6 million, billion? It's all so many millions. But so I think the communication of that is still important. So we do have our last meeting this week. And then we'll work its way through COG and FCTA, the Board of Supervisors. There is opposition to not doing it in 2022, but that decision really the question hasn't been called yet in the steering committee. I think if we feel like we've got a viable product, the polling is better than it was in 2006. So we'll see, but there's some concern out there that we should take more time. And I think more time is just more time. I don't know if we'd get any better in 2 more years, but we'll see. I mean, that's for the group to decide. So anyway, just wanted to make those 2 other points. And by the way, these are super cute, and I would like this on a T-shirt.
That's a great idea, and if I could add to that, it's going to be...
Thank you. Well, I know I don't have any T-shirts to say Clovis on it, so I'm actually just going to stick it right here. Do you mind? Kind of cute. Anyway, these are, what are these?
Carrie Cha came up with the idea.
Carrie Cha, you have to say that part.
And so you all have stickers in front of you. It was a great idea. She is actually taking the lead on hosting 120 third graders coming from Clovis Elementary on Monday, Tuesday for a tour. Her and Rebecca put together a bag giveaway for the kids. That's in there. If you'll walk by my Jeep on the way out, you'll see I Love Clovis on the back of the Jeep. It's pretty cool.
Oh, we used to do that in the old days, so nice job for bringing back giveaways to kids. Anyway, this is super cute. I like this one.
Yeah, I like the iHeart.
Could I have it on a T-shirt? Could we talk about T-shirts later? Okay, well done. And by the way, I don't do social media, but I do LinkedIn, and you got your MBA, is that right?
Congratulations.
Way to go. That's awesome. Good job. So anyway, thank you. That's all, I'm done.
And I had a fun week last week after my little with health. But, every year, the Clovis Fresno prayer breakfast, I reverse it because we should be first. And, it was a great event again. It was small. I don't think, they had the turnout they probably wished for, because it's a great venue. It's the Grizzly, it's the Chancey Park, and so even if you have a lot of people, it doesn't seem like you have a lot. But whenever two communities and the whole county, for that matter, can get together and break bread and then lift up everyone in prayer, there's nothing to compare. I get all juiced up for at least 2 days after that, so it was a great experience. Then the COG Association, I think staff did, our club staff did help facilitate that being here, and they did a great job. And I heard nothing but positive stuff throughout, from the vendors, from participants, and so, and they were in awe of Clovis. I like the fact that you had the trolley tours of Clovis, because I think what we're supposed to do in COG and we're already doing in Clovis, the multimodal means of transportation. It really can happen if you really try. And I think we tried, and we've used the monies that we get through all different kinds of funding to keep that going. And what Vong and Drew were saying earlier with the trails down south, we need to bring those to fruition so you can connect people, especially down south. And what else? Tomorrow we have more pastors in Clovis at the PD as they help in their pastoral events and helping Clovis with and using their resources to help Clovis PD. I'm glad that our what's her title? Mays. She's chaplain, senior chaplain, right? Yeah, I think so. No?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure she is. She's a senior chaplain, and the work she does, trying to bring the faith community together in Clovis is pretty big. So they're having a little meeting tomorrow, so I'll be there. And that's about it. And and we're adjourned, unless anyone.